I don't know what we're going to do for the beginning of our video now.
And it's especially hard with a book like this because, I mean, it was fine, but there weren't especially a lot of funny things to say about it.
I mean, I tried putting on this crown and like dancing around a little bit and everything, but even I couldn't laugh at that.
See, but you didn't lip sync though. That's the thing. You have to lip sync to make it funny. I think I'm turning Japanese. I think I'm turning Japanese. I'm reading show. See, instant comedy.
Well, it was better than your idea of saying, I don't know what to do, and then falling over. We're already making fun of a Newbery Award winner in this show. Do we want them to think we're completely incompetent?
Admitting your faults and then falling over is funny. Those are both funny things. Watch, when I fall over, it'll be funny.
But when people fall over, it always looks fake.
That's true. I guess we could always just show them this.
A few years ago, a book-obsessed girl's mother said,
"You know, pretty soon they'll stop printing books altogether and the world will be overtaken by Kindles."
This girl, terrified by the prospect, took to Amazon to buy a physical copy of all her favorite books. The result? A bookshelf filled with the best books ever written, most of which without a single crack in the back. Unacceptable? Absolutely. Thus begins a year-long mission to read and review every single one in alphabetical order. Is she crazy? Probably. This is the Favorite Book Project, 2015.
A String in the Harp by Nancy Bond. This little book is, she wrote it right after she got back from studying in Wales. So there's a lot about Welsh culture, a lot about Welsh, myths and stuff. And it's really interesting and apparently accurate because it's gotten a lot of Welsh applause. They have their own awards for books, apparently. They have lots of them, and they give them all to this book. And also, it's the 1977 Newbery Award winner, but I've never met anyone else who's read it. It starts off as your basic grief book.
Excuse me,
Yes?
what exactly do you mean by a grief book?
That is an excellent question.
The grief book genre seems like it was most prevalent in the 70s and 80s. First you have a character, normally a girl, but sometimes a boy, between the ages of 11 and 15. This child is very bright and intelligent, but overall not very well liked by either their peers or adults. Their needs and desires are often ignored, especially after the parent or other close family member passes. The child feels lonely and depressed, and always in some way interacts with nature while being depressed. Often this takes the form of long, lonely walks, perhaps near water. It rains. A lot. As the child is doing these things, a few other seemingly disconnected things are happening. Perhaps they're making a friend or becoming closer to a relative. Perhaps they discover something they didn't know before, or maybe they learn a new skill. But rest assured, you won't hardly notice this because the character is in such a state that they hardly notice. After a long time of walking around being sad and lonely in the rain, about 3/4 of the way through the book, they suddenly realize that the seemingly disconnected happenings are changing them somehow. Suddenly, the sun starts coming out, and the child is confused. Can they move on? Is life more than lonely walks in the rain? They kind of decide, yes, it is more than lonely walks, though lonely walks are still fine every once in a while. So the child comes out with a new sense of confidence, and often some very good friends. The end.
I see now. Thank you.
You're welcome, strange German nerd lady. How did you get in here? Now, don't get me wrong, there are parts and like stories in this genre that I really love. For instance, Super 8 is one of my favorite movies, and it hits absolutely every little stereotypical thing that I just told you about in the grief genre. However, it it doesn't make sense to me why this has to be a whole genre because there's only so much you can do with this story. However, A String on the Harp is very different. It doesn't adhere to the normal stereotypes. So it starts off, you have two characters, all right? You have a 15-year-old girl named Jen and a 12-year-old boy named Peter, and they are moved to Wales by their father after their mother dies in a car accident. You know, cue the fights, the tears, the long, lonely walks, blah, 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 right? And suddenly, something happens, all right? There's this thing that Peter finds. This is it. It's called a harp key, and he keeps it on a chain around its neck, and all of a sudden it like starts heating up at random times, and when it heats up, like, he can see all these things before him. There's this bard, his name is Taliesin. I'm probably totally mispronouncing that, but he sees the life of Taliesin, who lived in like the 600 AD or something like that, and he can see all these things, and he tells his sister, and his sister is like, ah, you're just making that up, you're trying to get attention and whatever, you sad little depressed kid, you. And then she starts seeing strange things that she can't just like, she can't explain away. So there's magic and like, what's going on, and where is our boring grief book that it was supposed to be? There are a few stereotypes she hits, like the long, gloomy walks in the rain. Still 100% there. There are probably more of them than your normal grief book, but at least it makes sense. Like in Wales, it's, you know, it's like an islandy sort of place, and so there's rain all the time, and it just makes sense, and like it's a sort of like out in the middle of nowhere, so there are places to take long, lonely walks. So at least she makes the setting make sense, and the setting is really the star here. You learn so much about Wales, not only in modern times, that being 1977, so maybe it's different now, but who knows, and also in the 600s, and you learn all about Welsh history and Welsh culture. And I honestly don't know of anywhere else you can get that other than just like a very, very detailed history book. And so that makes it extremely interesting and educational. As for the characters themselves, Nancy made an extremely good choice by uh, having two main characters, and she toggles her perspectives back and forth so that instead of getting one person's perspective on what's going on, she has two, and so it doesn't seem like one of them is getting more slighted than the other one, and like it just gives it more of a well-rounded feel. You get two different perspectives on the magic, and it really makes a lot of sense to do it this way. Another really good thing that she does is that she achieves a good balance between like the really sad parts, and but there are also like really happy parts. It feels like real life as opposed to constant doom and gloom and bad things happening all the time, you know, like a certain book that I remember reading. So overall, A String in the Harp is probably not going to blow your mind in any way, but it's really interesting, and it's an educational read that doesn't feel educational. Also, if you feel like you've been burned by the grief book genre, which I feel a little bit like I have, then this is going to maybe redeem it a little bit for you and make you feel like it's not all lost and sad and Mm. So anyway, I hope that you pick it up if it sounds interesting to you, and let me know if you enjoy it.
All right, talking points. I would like to hear, first of all, y'all's opinion on grief books. Am I right? Am I wrong? What are some of your favorites? Some things that you absolutely hate, like the one that I talked about today. Not stringing the harp. I mean the Jacob I have loved. Hey, if you have any things on that too, maybe you can reminisce with me about how horrifying it was to read that book. Then just comment. And also, I wanted to know, for those of you who have read the book, which are maybe like 2 of you, I was wondering if y'all have any opinions on Dr. Owen, because like the antagonist dude, who tries to get the harp key from them, because I there was something about him, like his character, that made me, like, I carefully read, like I slowed down in the book just to make sure I read every single word he said. I think it was because I was trying so hard to analyze and make sure, like, figure out what he knew and what he didn't know. But it was really fun, and I really enjoyed his character. So yeah, there are my talking points. And next book. Don't look. There it is. There's the next book. Do you see it? What is it? Tell me. Tell me what it is. See you next time. Bye-bye.